Greetings, score users. This is a continuation of the second demonstration of the labels program. And in this demonstration, I'm going to show you what you can do with an actual labels control file that already has values filled out in it. So here is such a control file. This one is just called logic.lbl. And here I have various functions filled out with values, and then at the bottom I have a glossary, which is just that template.txt file that we looked at in the previous demo. And I just have it down here at the bottom for reference, so that as I'm filling out various functions, I can refer to it to refresh my memory as to what the various parameter values should be. So at the top, I have a statement that says staves and files, and that's the number of staves that there should be in a maximum German score with all staves present. Here's a function for making the bar line for the entire system, and it runs from IDs 1 through 5. And the way that labels works by default is to have the IDs run from the top to the bottom. So the topmost staff would be ID 1, the next one would be 2, 3, 4, and 5, working its way from the top to the bottom. You may wish to have a different style of ID numbering, where you might want a number from the bottom to the top. And you may not want to be consecutive. You might want to skip around. You might want to have thousands for the flutes and 2000s for the clarinets and so on. And that's not a problem, because there's a way that you can associate your own numbering scheme with the internal top-down ID scheme that Labels uses. So that's not a problem. At any rate, in this one we're using the default, which is to go from top down. So the top staff is ID 1, the bottom staff is ID 5, and this is just saying make a system bar line from ID 1 through 5. And by default it will be a thin bar line, P5 equals 0. And here is a series of labels for the clarinets. And here I'm saying that the top two staves, IDs 1 and 2, are for B-flat clarinets. There's something called register text, which puts like the 1 and the 2 in. I'm making a system bar line here with P5 equals 9, and that's the system bar line. And here I'm specifying what kind of clef is to be used when we create a template. Here P5 equals 0. What the key is for the clarinets, they're in B flat, so -2 for that. And the transposition is down a major second, which is -2 as well. And now here's an alt label, which we'll get into in a little bit. That's for a different condition where we want to put in different labels. And there's some also functions for making system bar lines according to different conditions. But here's another make label statement for the trumpets. And here I'm saying that IDs 3 and 4 are for the C trumpets, and then I'm registering these texts 1 and 2 for ID 3, that's trumpet 1, for ID 4, that's trumpet 2. Again, there's some functions for making system bar lines for the trumpets. Then registering the clef, key, and transposition for the trumpets. These trumpets are in C. The clef is a treble clef. The key is in C, that's 0. The transposition is nothing, so it's also 0. And then finally we have a make label statement for the trombone, which is ID 5. Okay, so now let's put this away. And let me show you the first thing you can do with your completed logic label LBL control file. You can make a template. Now what just happened? I issued the GT command, which generates a score template as opposed to a control file template, which are two different things. What it did is it read the control file, and based on the specifications in it, it created a score file that has the template that you are desiring. So let's open this up in DOSBox and look at the results. So here is the template that the labels program created for you, and then you can begin inputting on this. So here we have the clarinets, and the trumpets, and the trombone, and it filled out the bar lines of the sides, and these register text items, I call them, and see it put in the correct clefs. Now, let's work with one that already has music on it. So here's another file, and this is the very same template as before, except that it now has music. Now, the most basic function of the program is to create French-style scoring, where only the staves that are present that have music on them are retained. And there's actually no French switch for the labels program because that's its default procedure. If we delete staff 4, boom, there's nothing there anymore. I'm going to say this is X. We're retaining that DO1 file for future use. Now, if you had to do this yourself, you would then have to bring staff 5 down to staff 4, and you might have to revise some other things, including this, because this is now hanging down here in the white space, and this needs to be pushed over, and what a mess that is. Well, if we process this file now with labels, it does its work, and now we open it up, and boom, the clarinet staff, which had been staff 5, is now at staff 4, and now the label has been edited appropriately with this register text item pushed closer to the system bar line. Now, say we want to restore the clarinet 2 staff that we just eliminated. Well, no problem. What we do is we process that file with the labels program, filling it out with the German switch, another switch which is called dummy, which I'll get to in a little bit. So if we do this, boom, it's now filled out the template, creating the clarinet 2 staff with the appropriate key signature, clef, meters, and whole rests that correspond to the duration of the measure in question. And now we have the margin labels restored as they should be. Well, let's say that you don't want, if we were to process this again with labels, with no switches specified, since there's no music on it, it will get rid of this staff because the default procedure is to eliminate staves that do not have music. So if I do this and then go back in, look at the file, boom, the clarinet 2 staff has disappeared because it had no music on it. Well, and now let's restore. I just ran the German procedure with the dummy switch as well to restore the missing staff, and now it's back in again. But let's say that when we're doing the French procedure, we don't want that staff to be deleted. Well, there are various ways that you can accomplish that, but perhaps the simplest is just to flag the staff itself so that the staff will be retained. And you do that by setting P17 to -1. Save the file, exit, boom, and see, this time the staff was not deleted even though it has no notes on it. And that's because we flagged the staff with -1. And that concludes this lesson, and in the next lesson we will continue with this example, and we will focus on how we can use the alt statements for creating different labels in different contexts.